So hi guys, it's been a little while since I've uploaded to this YouTube channel, but unfortunately if you follow me on other social media you'll know that the last couple of years hasn't been particularly kind to me personally. I'm not going to go into that now, but that's why I've been sort of thinking and mulling over what I want to do with this channel. You guys have been kind enough to subscribe, to like the videos, to comment on them, and I just wanted to kind of come up with a format and a way of doing this that actually gives some value back to those of you who actually want to kind of watch the videos. So I have been thinking about it a lot over the last year or so, and one of the things that I thought that I would do as part of the channel, maybe not all of it but just part of it, is something that I'm getting back into from a personal perspective, which I'll admit I've let lapse over the last year or so since everything's been happening, and that's a bit about kind of personal development myself, so reading business books, understanding other people's perspectives, taking those learnings and putting them into my own business. And I really haven't been doing that at all over that last year and a half, and 2020 is the year of change, so the year I'm going to kind of get back into it, and I've already started. So I've read a business book recently which I thought I'd kick off with, and this is by an author who I've followed for a very long time and has written a number of best-selling books over the time. But this one book, I've been meaning to read it for years and years and just never got round to it, and I've read the subsequent books that he's gone on and done. So this book is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferris, right? Tim Ferris, if I had to say some of the people that I respect most in business for what they've gone on and done and what they've achieved in their lives and how they've gone on and done it and how they share and things like that, Tim's up there in my top 5 probably, at least, maybe even top 3. I've followed his podcast, his super successful podcast, probably one of the most successful podcasts online. If you haven't got it, then you should do. I think it's just tim.blog and you'll be able to find out information about that. And he has been, as I say, somebody who I've followed for a very long time, but this book, The 4-Hour Workweek, was one which I think actually I'm probably right in saying that he actually made him famous. So one of his first bestsellers, and for some reason I just never got around to reading it. So this kind of review, these videos, they're not meant to be an exhaustive kind of look at that book or these books and give you every single piece of advice, so you don't need to go and read it yourself. The idea is that they highlight some of the things that I found interesting and fascinating so that you guys can actually decide whether you want to go off and read or invest in that book themselves. And also there'll be a link to the book where you can buy it online, or you can just go off to Audible or somewhere like that and listen to it. So let's just talk about the 4-Hour Workweek. So the 4-Hour Workweek is a relatively small book. It's been published in something like 40 languages, over 2 million, I think, purchases across the world. Even that might be out of date, so it could be much higher now. And it's all about freeing you up to do what you want to do, right? So those of us who might be looking for that next business, but want to kind of do it in the most efficient way, or if maybe you work for someone else and you want to go off and do something yourself, it kind of teaches you the tools and techniques for how to do that. It was written back in 2007, so bear in mind that it is that old now, you know, that's 13 years, so there's a lot that's happened, particularly in terms of the internet. I believe that Tim's updated some bits via his blog and via his podcast for the 4-Hour Workweek since he wrote it back then, so they're probably worth checking out. But I think some of the underlying principles kind of remain the same, really. So as I say, it's all about freeing you up to do what you want to do, and it talks about the new rich over the old rich, you know, the old rich coming from money and land and things like that. This kind of theory of people work and work and work until they retire, and when they retire is when they get the good stuff, whereas the new rich live a different life where they make money and then they do the things they want to do there and then in the moment, and the tools that we have around us with the internet and building businesses are there and such that we can build those kind of businesses. I'm sure it's not quite as easy as Tim makes out, but not that he's saying it is, but you know, you have to kind of work these things through and work out what the best ideas are for you. But yeah, I quite like this kind of idea of the new rich, and one of the things that the new rich do apparently is they set themselves kind of big goals. So they go for big things to achieve rather than small wins, because there's so much competition at the bottom, whereas at the top, actually, some of the things you might think are completely unattainable or just way out there are actually, there's not many other people. Everyone thinks that way, so there's not many other people doing that. So he gives this example of, trying to raise £1 million might actually be easier than trying to raise £100,000, because there's a lot of people that would, invest 100,000. There's not very many that will go for the million. So these are the kind of examples he gives, and he then takes you through this kind of formulaic process of something called DEAL, which stands for definition, so defining what you want in life, elimination, so eliminating time wasters and time wasting, automation, so automating parts of your business to be successful, and then liberation, so liberating yourself from the kind of everyday work ethic and work sort of standards we're all kind of used to, the 9 to 5, if for want of a better phrase. And then through these different areas, he picks up on different ideas and gives you sort of tools for those. And one of the ones which I like particularly, and I've always known about this, but this made it kind of resonated with me again, was Pareto. So Pareto's law 80-20, that 80% of the things that you get are quite often generated by just 20% of the things that you do. He gives this example of a pea plantation where 80% of the peas come from 20% of the pods, and somewhere in Italy I think that 80% of Italy is owned by 20% of the people in it, or something like that. But he gives these examples, and I really like that Pareto rule, and he applies that to business. So you're potentially doing 80% of your 100 or your 8-hour day. 20% of it is really the 20% that's actually generating that next step or pushing you forward. So trying to cut out the 80% is like one of the key areas. And how do you do that? You have to look at kind of eliminating maybe social media these days, or an element of it. Eliminating checking your inbox every 5 minutes, because you just dance to someone else's tune then. The drags on your time, the time wasters, are the really key things here. And we all been in those meetings which don't really have a purpose. It's things like that which he suggests that you cut out of your day. The other thing I quite liked was the Parkinson's law, which is all about that you use the time that you have available to you. So if you've got an hour to finish something, you finish it in an hour. Whereas if you've got all day, you finish it in 4 hours or 8 hours even. You take the amount of time that you've got to do that particular task. So being efficient with that kind of process is super key. One of the other ideas that he gives is all about setting up auto responses on things like your email. So you say that you're going to check email twice a day, maybe, or even once a day, or maybe you're not doing it at all and you're actually giving it out to somebody else to do. These are all kind of ideas that I took from the book, or snippets that I took from the book. Automation is all about delegating out tasks. It's about outsourcing. So he talks about having a business where you actually outsource the majority of the work to other people. If it's running your website, you might outsource that to an agency, or even just an individual. He talks a lot about virtual assistants and how important those people are. So employing a virtual assistant to do the elements of your business you want to do so that you can do other things is a really key part to his book. Again, might have changed, I guess, in that last 13 years, although it's probably got better, actually, to be fair. And I actually have a VA myself at Optics these days. And then the other one which I think resonated with me is finding your muse. And your muse is your business, essentially. It's the thing that's going to make you money. Very much easier said than done, this bit, I believe anyway. You've got to come up with that key idea. What do you do? Do you take a product and resell it, in which case the profit margins are much smaller? Or do you create something from scratch, in which case awesome, but you've got to come up with that very creative idea which doesn't have a huge amount of competition, because you've got to be better than everyone else if you do that. He does say, and I really like this, and I've used it myself before as well, is that you should really give some sort of very big promise back. So money back guarantee. He did this, what was it, brain, forget the exact word, but he sold a product at one point where he actually said, if this product doesn't work within X amount of time after you buy it, I will give you 110% of that price back. So I'll refund you and send you a check for $10, which is very bold, right? Because that essentially, a lot of us would have been going, whoa, no way, that could cost me a load of money. But that actually made him probably millions doing that product, and obviously he must have known it was great in the first place. So a few other things, you know, around testing the product and making sure that you've got a high price point and stuff like that as well. So to kind of summarize, you know, I've looked forward to this book. I've known about snippets of it for a very long time, and I don't feel like it massively taught me a huge amount more, but it did give me maybe some impetus to actually achieve some of the other things that it talks about, like the muse and coming up with some new ideas on the sideline. You know, for me, I've got my businesses, the things that I enjoy. I don't need something else necessarily, but having something on the side is always nice, right? So I think it probably has pushed me a little bit when it comes to that, and things like selling my LinkedIn courses on other places online. It is that kind of thing that I've been doing over the last couple of years. So I think it's an awesome book. It's something that if you've got a passion for doing something on your own, you should definitely check it out. So I don't know what the next book's going to be yet, but I'll get thinking. I'm going to be trying to read a couple of books a month if I can, so hopefully I'll get to do as many videos as that over the course of the time. So if you're interested and you want to know more, please subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you then.